Can we, Kelsey, can you mute your microphone, please? And Renee, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna, actually, I'll lay out the format first because we're gonna talk through the technical steps of publishing a journal for today's example. But if you've written a full content book, the steps to upload the book and design the cover could look exactly the same, but I'm gonna show what it looks like to do a low content book or no content book, like a journal. That'll be today's example. So as we walk through each of the steps in that process, I'm going to pause after each one to allow for question and answers on that specific step. And then once we get through the process, we'll have a big chunk of time at the end for any kinds of questions that you guys have around the technical side or just self-publishing in general. There will be plenty of time for conversation. I think we have this session booked for 2 hours. So if you have questions, there will be lots and lots of time to get those answered. So I found self-publishing about a year ago, and I have always, I say always, probably 20 years, have wanted to make my own journals. I journal every day. I have like 35 journals from the last 4 years that I've filled up. So I go through them really regularly, I often, and I really always wanted to make my own journal. And I had thought that that's a whole process of getting hooked up with a publisher and an artist, because I'm not an artist, or so I thought. And I just had it in my head that it was this big deal, that it was a future, far off in the future thing. And then one day, this person, Amy, she was on the session from last time. She comes into my grocery store. That's my day job, that I own a grocery store, or was at the time. And we chatted about her self-published low content books. And I had no idea that that was even a thing. So I feel exactly like what Evelyn said, as far as like it opening up a whole new world. Now that that option was at my fingertips, I was almost instantly inspired with like, here's some prompts, here's this cool journal that I want to make, here's this, and just the ideas started running wild. And so in the last year, you know, every time I get an idea for a book, I put it together and I publish it for sale on Amazon. I personally don't keep close track of the sales that I make. I know I do sell some books, but I'm not in there like watching it every day. Some people do. Probably depends on how many books you're selling, how fun that is. But at this point, I am really passionate about teaching other people how to do this, how simple it can be. I don't have much of a technical background. I'm familiar with software, but I'm not like a coder by any means. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not a writer necessarily. And so I thought that I needed other people to help me do all of these different pieces. And so I put it off for like 6 months of even trying to design my own cover. And then when I started designing my own cover, I'm like, wow, this is really easy. I can't believe I waited 6 months to even try. So the goal of today's session is to give you a demonstration of how simple it can be. So obviously in lots of these different steps, like the interior, the content of what you actually want to publish, there may be a lot of time associated with that in terms of actually writing content. So that's kind of a variable. The cover itself, you can spend a lot of time designing a cover. You can also just turn the thing black, write something on the front of it, and call it a cover. So it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. Today's example is going to be as simple as it gets, because by the end of the demonstration, I'm actually going to upload a journal into KDP so that it'll be for sale on Amazon as soon as they review it for me. Just to show you guys, like, it really doesn't take a lot of time. I treat it more like a hobby than a business. I'll just tell you that. So I do it when it's fun. I design the things that I think look good. I do content that I would personally want to use as a journaler. And that's my relationship to self-publishing. So I'm going to jump into the technical walkthrough is what we're going to call this. And to get started, I'm going to share my screen here. Mindy, if you can enable me to share my screen, please. And then I will share. I have an agenda of the different pieces that we're going to look at that kind of lays out the process. Um, there's a few steps in the process, like any other activity or craft that you might be familiar with, and I'm going to show you how to do each of those. There we go. Okay, so we'll start with this. So today, the first step that we're going to talk about is content. And for this low content book that I'm going to create in front of you here, I'm going to use a site called Tangent Templates. Now, Tangent Templates is the only expense that I've ever incurred in my self-publishing. It costs $59. That's a one-time charge, and you have access to it, including any of the new templates that they ever create and put in there. For $59, you have lifetime access to Tangent Templates, and I'm going to show you how that works, because that's going to give us the PDF of our interior for our no content book, and it's going to give us a template for the cover. And I'll show you when we get to step 2 in the cover design why that template for the cover is so important. And through Canva, which is also a free program online that I'm going to show you, you get a PDF of the cover. So at this point, we have a PDF of the interior and a PDF of the cover, and now we're ready for step 3 to upload our book into KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. KDP is a really cool site. If you don't know anything about KDP, here's like the 30-second version. They publish on demand as your books are ordered through Amazon.com. Your books automatically qualify as Prime items, so free 2-day shipping to any Prime members. And as soon as your customer orders your book on Amazon, KDP prints it, ships it, and they have it in less than 2 days. And then through that system, you get a share of the royalties, and Amazon and KDP are taking their share. So, you know, it's not something that you pay to upload each book. All of that is free, but they are going to take a cut of your sales, and that's how they make money. That's how they allow us all to do this. So that's how KDP works. And once the book is into KDP, they do review it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go through the upload process, some things to look for. And then once your book is live on Amazon, obviously, if somebody searches for your book, there's different ways to optimize Amazon's search, just so that you come up higher in the search. I'm not going to talk a ton about that. Some marketing courses on optimizing algorithms, like if you're into it, I'm sure there's sessions out there like that. What I'm going to show you as far as marketing is the KDP author page. So this is a free service. It's a URL that you get for free where you can put all your books or whichever books you choose. And then it's a URL that you can use. And I'm going to show you how I've put that URL into my website. So from my website of all my services, there's an easy way for the people to find my books. And then also I have a Facebook page specific to one of my series of journals called My Focus Journal, and I have its own Facebook page for that. So I'm going to show you all of those different options and how I use them. There's so many other ways that you can market yourself. This is just to kind of get your creative juices flowing as far as what the options are and how simple or not it can be. It's kind of up to you. Yes, yes, this session is also being recorded, and the link will be posted to be able to watch all of this later. So I'm trying to go slow enough so that if you do want to take some notes, you don't feel like I'm beating you up, but you can also go back and watch the session again. So I want to try to get through the information because I really think the Q&A is probably going to be the funnest part. So without further ado, I'm going to go through step 1 of the content. We're going to get to that endpoint of having our interior PDF and cover template, and then I'm going to pause for questions. So if you have anything as we go, feel free to drop those in the chat, and we will stop and get caught up on questions as soon as I get through step 1. So that's perfect. Okay. So this is Tangent Templates. And if you look, I mean, you can Google Tangent Templates. It's going to come up right at the top. Like I said, it costs $59, and then you have lifetime access to all of these templates. And what the templates allow for, so in our journal, we get to decide what is the content that we, just had an idea. What's the content that we want in our book? And so if you're making a journal, it can either be no content, meaning that it's just a bunch of blank pages. It can also be low content, and that would be prompts at the beginning of each page. So at the top, it might say, my idea of fun is ... And then you've given the person 2 pages to write what their idea of fun is. And then they turn the page, and the next prompt is, when I hang out with my friends, I like to ... And so you have a series of prompts through your book. That would be a low content book. Versus a full content book would look like you actually crafting a manuscript. And if you're going to have dynamic content on every single page, this Tangent Templates is not what you're looking for. This is specifically for like journals, or you know, you can make planners in here. There's lots of different ideas there. Like if you get into this prompts and planners package of templates, it is a good time. Also included, that's where you could easily make a prompt journal. It's so simple. If we have time, if anybody's interested, I can run us through that at the end. And then there's also some planner template pages that you can use, either just take their interior and use it, or you can download those pages to take into Photoshop or Canva and kind of tweak them and create your own. But at least it's a really solid starting point. If you do have a full content book, like I am working on my first one, you would do that basically in Word. Take and create your manuscript, your written content in Word, and then through Word, you basically save it as a PDF, and there's a whole process to make sure that, you know, the margins are right, and on and on and on, to make sure that when they print it, it's going to look good inside of whatever dimension book you choose. And again, this session isn't going to get into the technicalities of like how to get your manuscript ready for publishing. That might be a cool session if anybody's interested in that specifically. Let us know in the chat, and we can definitely talk about that for the future. For the sake of today, though, we're going to make a journal. So then it's a matter of deciding, do you like college rule lined paper? Do you like wide ruled? If you look through here, there's also like stuff like this. And if you pick one of these templates, the whole book is going to be full of that. But maybe you want something that's more like graph paper, or these half and half pages where it's graph paper on the top and it's lines on the bottom. Or maybe you like this over here where it's blank on the top and lines on the bottom. My friend made a tarot journal recently, like for daily pulling cards for yourself, to where she took this template and put a few boxes at the top here, and then there was space to, you know, fill in. Here are the cards that I got for today, and on the bottom half of the page, you can journal about those cards and what they mean to you. So there's lots of different ways to use these templates. So, I mean, the $59 for me has definitely become worth it as I go. So there's also just all kinds of things in here as far as like what you can play around with. And like I said, either take it and just run with that exact interior, or use bits and pieces of this in a program like Canva or Photoshop to customize it and do your own thing. So I am just going to pick college ruled line paper. And then we pick our trim size. So trim size is just the size of the book. So I think almost all of the ones that I have are 6x9. This one is like I don't even know. I think it's the 5. I think it's 5¼ by 8. So it's just a little bit smaller. So as you pick that, you know, I like to think about what size journal do I like to use, and I do 6x9 almost always because that's my favorite size. I'm gonna do, which is, you know, maybe the lazy way of doing it, but when I look at my manuscript, I played around with the upload before I really started building it in Word and just tried to figure out, like, could I do it? And yes, I can, but I couldn't figure out how to get the Word document to change sizes. And so instead of fight with that, I just decided to make my book 8 by 10 or 8 by 11 and a half, whatever a Word document normally is. I just was like, fine, we'll just make my book that size. Path of least resistance. So for today, I'm going to do a 6 by 9. And the page count is just what it sounds like. It is how many pages do you want to be in your book? And the thing about these two is that it does drive the printing cost. So, like, for example, this one is 100 pages, and this one is, I think, 400 pages. This one costs like $2, like $270, $280 to print. And so when I price it, they take the printing cost off the top, and then the profit, I split that with them. I get my share, they get their share of the profit. And so then this one that's so thick, same dimensions, but just thicker, is like $560 or something like that to print. And so that drives, just overall pricing and the margins. And we'll get into that in the upload, because as you set the price of the book, when you upload it, it does give you some notes there. So we'll talk about that in more detail. But page count, I am doing bigger ones lately just because those 100-page journals, I need a new one like every 2 weeks. So I need some bigger ones for myself. So we're going to do a 6 by 9 inch journal with 400 pages. Bleed is required, doesn't even let us pick no. So at this point, I don't even care what bleed means. And I'm going to download my interior. So that PDF is now in my downloads folder. I'm going to come back to that in a second, because while I have this up, I have this option to download a PNG, which is a picture file, of my cover template. And I'm going to show you that in a second. You can also just view them. I always download the template because, especially when you need to put anything on the spine of the book, it's helpful to know where the spine is. And I'm going to walk you through that here in a second. So I'm going to also download the cover template, which means I'm at the end of step 1, and I am ready for catching up on questions. What's we got? There's a lot in the chat, so maybe somebody can help me out.
So somebody did ask, what do you mean by the term journal? Is that different than a book?
So KDP is always going to use the term book. In terms of book means a bound collection of paper, and a journal is a low content book where, like, literally this book, it comes with blank paper that I write in every day. So journaling is a thing that some people do. And yeah, when I say journal, I mean a blank book that the user is going to fill in themselves.
Can a book be in landscape orientation instead of portrait?
I'm going to say yes. And to check that, I'm going to go back to this trim size options and see if any of them are landscape, because that is the width and that's the height. So this one needs to be bigger to have a landscape option. That book is square. So is that one. It looks like that's the closest option, is to make a square. So, and this is only tangent templates. I think when you upload onto KDP, the options for sizes is almost endless. So on KDP, it might be possible, and we will double check when we do the upload there. So that just means that you couldn't get your interior out of tangent templates. You would have to create it in Canva or Photoshop or something like that.
Would you consider a children's book to be low content?
Not in the sense that you're going to be able to use, actually, no, I wouldn't. I would consider that to be full content, because you're going to have to design the interior of every single page because the content's not going to repeat. And most children's books don't give you space to write. Like that's what I think of when I think of low content, is that you're giving them space to add their own content. You're not responsible for the content, they are. So that's low content. So in a children's book, you're going to do the artistry, the imagery, the words, you know, and you're going to provide all the content, unless you wanted to do a children's low content book, which I have seen. Valerie shared an example of a playbook that she made on that she has for sale on KDP, and it's like that. It's like there's space for them to draw, there's space for them to color this in. So I mean, I would consider a coloring book to be low content because you're expecting them, again, to provide some of the content themselves. Kat, do you have anything to add to that? Any thought?
I just looked it up because I wasn't sure, and it said that children's books might be low word, but they're not low content.
Yeah, that's a good way to distinguish it. Yeah.
And low content books are usually things like, as you said, those journals, things that you write in.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking at the question, can a book be created in Tangent or only journals? Just for myself, I did not use Tangent to create my books. I don't know if you can.
And you can't. So like when I go back to Tangent, like when I go Tangent interiors, this is the bulk of what's available. There is this interior designer, which I have not ever played around with a whole lot, but and I see it's in beta. So that's a newer feature that they have in there, and they're always adding stuff. Like every time I come in here and look, there's new stuff, more tools. This is new since I joined, and I've used that prompt feature several times. So, I mean, maybe that's what that is, that you can like take one of these pages where like this, and maybe you can put something in that box. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what that is, but really the goal is to just download a paper with lines on it so that you don't have to make a paper with lines on it yourself. Like this is all of these different templates that you can take and run with. If you want to design your own pages, that's more like if you're writing content, maybe Word. If you're designing more like imagery pages, maybe you're doing that in Canva, and I'm going to demonstrate that next.
Really? There was a question about how to place a Word document into a publishing program. I was converting my document in Pages to Word, but I found out that I could just convert it into a PDF to upload it straight on Kindle. So I think either a Word document or a PDF would work.
One more question there. Is there a way to search to make sure no one has published the ideas you have to publish before you start?
That's interesting.
Can I take this for while you're thinking? As a
Sure.
high school teacher, the way we would check to see if the kids were plagiarizing would be we put, capture a quote and put it in. There's a lot of search engines on Google to where you can see if somebody else has published it. If your ideas are similar to somebody else's, but you're not copying them, then I think you're good. Like as long as it's in your own words and you're not stealing somebody else's ideas. And a lot of us have similar ideas and stuff that we want to express.
Yeah, I obviously.
I just saw your note.
Okay.
It's because I had my keyboard. I'm sorry. Did any of that come through?
We can hear it. It's just kind of muffled. Okay, glad we figured that out because yes, thank you. That's perfect now. Okay, so the whole, copying people's ideas. And Amy does talk about this in the panel discussion that we did last time in terms of like there are people out there who they look around at what's out there and literally make the same book. Like, I didn't, until she told me that, like, I would have never even thought that that was possible, that someone would, like, not just copy your idea, but like make the same cover, make the same interior, like buy the book for, you know, $8 or whatever you sell it for, and then make, like, remake it and put it for sale on Amazon. Like, it's a crazy world that we live in. I personally have no experience with that. And I don't do a lot of research, and that is my personal style. And just disclaimer, like, that's my opinion. When my ideas come to me out of nowhere and they feel so good and it's a whole vision of here's what I want to do, I don't think I've ever stopped to check to see if that already exists. I'm like, even if it exists, this is my version. And like, what are books if not a different person combining the same elements over and over and over again? So that's my 2 cents. And yeah.
Also, just wanted to note that I think Amy said that with Amazon, there's a process to report if someone does copy your material. And also the SBDC does provide some IP workshops and webinars, and you can find those on our website. So if there was material that you wanted to have to copyright or trademark or things like that, you could learn more about that with an IP attorney there.
For sure.
When you're publishing, Amazon, I mean, you can throw in the copyright right in the beginning. I did that on my book. I don't know how effective it is.
You tried. It's all there. I think you're protected either way. Like, if you can, I think what Amazon does in that review is look and see like how similar the designs are and the publishing date of each. And if there's is a copy of yours that was published after, like, you're covered either way. I mean, that's all a giant pain in the rear to have to like figure all of that out. But like I said, like, my ideas don't feel like that. They feel like this is a brand new idea to me. So I don't know, maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't, but I'm going to run with it anyway. Again, I'm treating it like a hobby of, I want to make stuff that I want to use. Like, almost every single one of my ideas is because I'm, like I said, I shop for journals regularly and I can't find what I'm looking for. So I make my own, and now I have what I wanted. And so most of my journals have been through that path. So I don't, yeah, I tend to err on the side of like risk taking versus risk averse. And that's something that kind of each person needs to figure out for themselves. Any other questions on I think Evelyn put in the chat about getting a copyright for free. So yeah, totally possible. And if that's something that you want to do, with Tangent Templates, and again, unless they're doing the interior builder, and that's going to allow you to make some of those customizations, with Tangent Templates, it wouldn't have a spot where you could put a copyright unless you took that interior and put it into a design program like Canva, Photoshop, and like added it manually. Like, it's not going to come out of Tangent Templates. Where like the PDF that I downloaded a second ago, I plan to just upload. Like, I'm not going to do anything else to it. My interior is complete, just some lines on some paper, and I'm going to upload that as the interior of my book. So if you did want to do the copyright, just keep in mind it would add just a tiny bit more work to the interior if you're going to use something like Tangent Templates. Cool. Oh. Yes. Marianne's putting in the chat also about the law clinic, and yes, they have tons of resources. If this is a path that you want to explore more and make sure that you've got those ducks in a row, then they got people that can help you with that. So I feel like we're caught up on the content step. And okay, so we'll do the cover design next. And to do that, we are going to start with this. This is what we just downloaded out of Tangent Templates. And honestly, even if you don't work with Tangent Templates for the interior, this is very helpful to know exactly what dimensions your cover needs to be. And it's literally showing you the book itself. So this is the back cover, this is the front cover, here's where the spine is. This is a space that you're going to leave empty because that's where they're going to put your barcode, which is free to you for them to put the barcode on there. Or if you already have your own barcode, that's just where you would put the barcode. And then when you upload, there's a place to say, I already put a barcode, don't cover it up with yours. But if you remember, we set our trim size, the size of the book, at 6x9. And what that means is that the front cover is 6x9, or it will be after they print it and cut it. And so that's what this purple part is. That's the part that that's how big your imagery is, but that's not the size that the book is going to wind up. It's inside the purple that is the size, but you still have to make your cover the right size. So you have to add those little dimensions of space that they're accounting for, you have to account for too. So that's why when I take my size and go to Canva, I'm going to do a 13.15 inch by 9.25 inch image, or you can set it up in pixels, whichever one is easier for you. And so that's how I know how big to make my cover. So I'm going to go to Canva. This is a free program. I think you can pay for it and unlock pro level features, but I have never paid for Canva. I use all the free stuff and I don't plan on upgrading anytime soon. So I click on create a design and I want to do a custom size and I'm going to enter it in inches. And the dimensions were 13.15, so that's how far across the whole image has to be, because the image for the cover is a combination of, like when you look at this journal, that whole thing is the cover. So it's the front cover, the spine, and the back cover all combined into one image. So 13.15 is how wide across it's going to be, and then, whoops, 9.25 is how tall it's going to be. So now when we look at that, that is that whole cover that's going to wrap around our book. And I'm going to upload the cover template that I downloaded. And I hover right on the edge and it automatically fills that in for me. And so I put that on there and I can see where the front cover is going to be. I can see where the back cover is going to be. I can see where the barcode is going to be and the spine. So I mostly put this on there for making sure that anything that I'm going to put on the front or back cover is oriented the way I want. Like in my early days, I would eyeball it, and then the text on the front of the journal is like off to the side, which messes with my OCD terribly. I should have known better. So now I get this on there so I can line the text up to be in the center of the cover, or off or wherever in the back cover. I also usually do a double check just in case I forgot and was like any of the text or anything that I put on there was going to be covered with the barcode, and that was going to throw off the design. And if I need to put the name of the book on the spine, I use this to get the text in there and then center it in the spine. So that's all the ways that this cover template is very, very helpful. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing a design, and I would have already done this by now by getting to this point, but I'll show you real quick, is the place I normally go is called Pixabay. And this is just free images, and like they're supposed to be uncopyrighted images. And then when you get into an image, and I've done this several times, the artist or the author of that content is linked to the image, and you have the option to make a donation to them. And so I donate every so often to different people when I find an image that I think is really cool. So I'm just going to search for something real quick and find some different options and see what I'm drawn to. That's kind of cool. I think those are feathers. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to download that. It's free. I just have to say I'm not a robot. It wants me to pick the things with the traffic lights. Thank goodness none of them are on the border. I'd have to really obsess about it. So, okay, downloaded my image. So now I'm going to use that as the background on my cover. So I'm going to do this real quick. Upload that into Canva so I can use it. And again, I'm going to hover and it autofills. And so you see it covered up my template. And that's okay, because I personally can't do the text if I can't see the background. So I'm going to cover up the template for a second, get my text on there that I want to have on there, and then put the template back and situate everything. So I think it looks good. So purple that, get into the text piece, and they have all of these little things that are free to just take and type in what you want. So let's just take a look, shall we? See what jumps out at us. Some of them are good to go. Some of them you could tweak ever so slightly and make them good to go. So like, I'm gonna even just let that say chill, but I am gonna see if I can tweak. Oh, it's only let me change that. Ooh, that's interesting. So like, you can just kind of play around with it, see what you like. I wish I could change the purple of that. So maybe we do this. So I just used their template. I deleted out a piece of it that I didn't want in there. I did that. I took their idea because it just is a word called chill. Like, I don't know how you can copyright a single word. I don't think that you can. And then I'm going to play around with the color of that. That obviously needs to be lighter. And just kind of feel your way through it, you know? Like, let's just try that. I dig. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to this and see I have it too far towards the spine. So I'm going to put it back. I think I like it. Okay. And then I'm going to do a spinal text as well. So back up here at the top, I can just click that and do like that. Turn it until I see 90 degrees exactly. So I know it's exactly up and down. And then as far as where you put that, it really doesn't matter. Grab a hold of it. And see, these lines show up to show you that you've exactly centered your stuff. So those make it super easy. Make that the same color as that other font, which they save it for me right there. And I always put on the back like so. Good enough. And I'm going to make that the same color as well. Okay, so now that I have all of my font situated where I want, I can delete that and go back to my loads. That's not, that I just clicked on the image, and obviously that's going to make me stretch it myself, which I am too lazy to do. So we're just going to do like so. And that is done. I'm going to call it done. And this is probably going to be the next journal I buy. So now I'm ready to download this, and this is going to be my cover that I upload with the book into KDP. So because I know I'm going to upload it, you have all these different options of what kind of file are you wanting to upload, or sorry, download. But I want PDF print because that is the quality and the type that I can upload into KDP. So I click on that and I click download. And we see it pop up down here. It is now in my downloads folder. So now I have in my downloads folder, I have a PDF of the interior, that's this one, and I have a PDF of my cover, which means I am at the end of step 2 and ready to catch up on questions. Did we get any questions, or does anyone have a question on design? Obviously, that's one place that you can go to do your design, and it's free. You can pay for Photoshop. Photoshop is also a little bit more complicated to learn just because it has so many more options of cool things you can do with it. But yeah.
When you're using like the picture, I noticed you just used the size that was sort of the default. Is that, are there any parameters on the size of images? You know, there were some options. Are there any?
You're talking back here.
On the purple feathers?
Yep. So when I download it, you can do any of these. It's kind of up to you. So a basic version of what pixels are, that's how clear the image is going to be at the end. And so I do the default because that's really good quality. This one would be better, but that's also a bigger file to take up more space in your downloads folder. And I'm bad about cleaning that out. So I do the medium-sized one. You could also do the smaller one. The risk of the smaller one is that when you actually get your book printed, it's going to look pixelated. Like you're going to be able to see blurs in the photo instead of having it be like crisp and super sharp. So that's the difference of what that is. Once you get it into Canva, it doesn't really matter because you already said how big this image is. So this is the size of like the dimensions that I put in at the beginning where it showed me, you know, it's going to be 13.15 by 9.25. That is the size that this image becomes when I output it into KDP. So as long as your cover is the right size, then the image that you're using as the background doesn't matter. It's going to play out in the quality of the cover once it's printed. So I hope that was clear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I did not understand the copyright idea from one of the attendees regarding sending yourself a copy of your receipt and not opening it. If someone could please explain that further, that would be great.
I'm going to jump in there. Is that okay?
Yep, go for it. Thank you.
So this is not, and this course is not really directed toward IP protection, but I think that is a topic that's definitely pertinent. I've heard IP attorneys speak to that, so I think that is something that if you are interested, let's follow up with Mindy or I directly, and we will connect you with an IP attorney or the Washburn Law Clinic to get a good directive on how to protect your work appropriately.
We actually do have a series on our website within our webinars, and it covers trademarks, copyrights, intellectual properties, and the presentations are given by a woman who works for the USPTO.
Do you know when that's coming up, Mindy?
Those have already been done, but they are posted. So I can send out, when I send out the recording for this presentation to the attendees, I can also send out links to those videos as well.
Great. Dee Dee, if you have any questions after that video, please follow up with us.
Yeah. So, any other questions on the design piece? You see, I spent less than 3 minutes designing that image start to finish, and I told myself I couldn't do it for like 6 months. And once I got in there and saw, oh my gosh, this is all I have to do, I was kicking myself, but at least I know now. So obviously, you know, and I could show you this as a perfect example of like, oh, it's probably not going to come out super clear, but so my friend Amy, who was on here last time, she did this one, and she's got like little shapes and things that she put on there. The font is super cool. On the back, like she added these little, which I figured out how to do that in Canva too, and sometimes I do. You basically just take a screenshot and save it as an image of the interior. And then I used Canva to like write the things on there. But yeah, so she did this one, and it's like professionally designed, and it looks like it was professionally designed. And mine look like they were amateurly designed, most likely. And I'm okay with it. So that's a self-acceptance thing that I practice, of like not needing to pay a designer to do it for me. And someday if I had a special project, I probably would. If I like really wanted a legit cover, I would pay somebody to do it for me. But if you're hobbying and uploading books for fun and making things that you think look cool so that you can buy it for yourself to use, like, I mean, do whatever you think is fun and easy and go with that. So that's my advice. Kat, how long did it take you to design your cover that you used on, I guess, did you make different covers for the book and the workbook, or do they have the same cover?
The book and the workbook have the same cover, and then the other journal I did has a different cover.
Okay.
And it took me maybe an hour. Well, because, no, it took me a little longer actually, because on the back covers, I like wrote what was inside, you know, so it was, I wanted to do that thoughtfully because it was going to represent, you know, the information on the back cover represents what people would want to see to know if they want to buy your book. So yeah, it took me actually a few hours to do, but the picture part only took like an hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, it kind of depends on, again, what mood am I in while I'm doing it, and do I want to look through all the Pixabay images? Like I get down to like 1,000 images in sometimes I'm just scrolling through cool images and like downloading like for later, you know? So I try to follow the fun, as with most things. I was going to show you something. Oh no, I was going to mention like the reason for putting like in this example, like images of what the inside looks like, or in Kat's example, like describing what the book is about. When you upload onto KDP and it puts it for sale on Amazon, it does eventually add a peek inside where people can see a few pages of the inside of the book. But that takes a while for them to get that up there. And so in the meantime, you can only see the front and back cover. So the back cover having an example of what's in there is very helpful. The other thing is when people are looking at your book on mobile or a mobile device of some sort, the peek inside never shows up. So if they're shopping from their phone, they don't get to look inside no matter how long your book's been there. So again, the back cover having an example or some kind of information, a very good idea to work into your cover design. How did Carly bring the template back on top of the feather image? So replay that one time here. So like I have all my uploads over here. This is my template. And I can basically just lay them on top of each other as many times as I want.
Sorry, Carly, you'll need to share again.
Oh gosh, yeah, that makes sense. It sure does. I'm doing it and you guys can't even see. Okay, so you can lay these over each other as many times as you want. And like, whoops, not like that. So here, you think like I laid it over there so that feather image is still underneath. It's not. It's like replacing them every time you add a new image on top. So you just keep doing it. So, yes. All right, I think we're good on the designs. So I'm going to go back to here. And that means we are ready for the KDP upload portion. So I have my PDF of my cover, my PDF of my interior, and I'm ready for KDP. So here I have logged into my Kindle Direct Publishing account. This is what it looks like when you first log in. To upload, I'm going to go onto my bookshelf. And this shows all of the books that I have on my bookshelf, and you can page through all of them. You can update some of the information on a published book. Some of it you can't. You'd have to re-upload the book. So if you want to play with your books that you have in the system, the bookshelf is where you'll do that. That's also where you can order author copies, which basically means you pay the printing cost of the book and shipping, and they send you copies instead of you having to pay full Amazon retail price. So in KDP, you have two options. One is a paperback and one is a Kindle ebook, and you can like upload a paperback book. And then like once it gets into here, you can create the Kindle ebook. So it could be one listing with two options, which if I was going to do it from a marketing perspective, that's how I would have both options. I don't have any ebooks. Kat has done that. So if anybody has questions about that, or we could even have her talk about that here once we get through the upload part. But for today, I'm creating a paperback. So I'm going to click on that. And then this is where you're creating your Amazon listing. So this is everything that's going to show up about your book when somebody views it as a product on Amazon. So for the book title, there's really technically no right or wrong way to do all of this, what we're about to do. I will say there are more strategic, more informed methods to like keyword and make sure that you're using the words that are going to get your stuff found. And so for that, I think that's probably like a whole nother section where a whole session on how do you keyword and how do you market your book, how do you talk about your book so that the people who you're trying to sell it to are going to be able to find it. For the sake of today, I'm just, again, keeping it simple. So your chill self, blank journal, 400-page college ruled 6x9. And you can do a subtitle. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's anything that you can put in the listing is another keyword, another opportunity to get your book found. And speaking of getting the book found, so if it is part of a series, I highly recommend you set this up. I have a series and I can show you when we get back to the bookshelf, but basically it links multiple KDP books together in this one overarching umbrella. So like my focus journal, it has, you know, tons of books as part of that series and they're ordered. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, like they go in order. So I have them in a series, in an ordered series. So if anybody ever found like book 9, they would be able to click to see all the My Focus Journal books. So if you do have anything that is a series, you could set that up there. Edition number, I've done this one time where I literally published a second version of the same book I had published before, but I made changes and it was different. So I uploaded that as the second edition of that book. So if you're uploading for the first time or it's a blank journal, you would just leave that blank. The author is me. And if you wanted to add additional contributors, that's where you could do that. And it looks like you can add multiple. If you did want to give credit, you know, if you wrote the children's book, but somebody else illustrated it, maybe that's where you do that. And I think you can, yeah, so you could call out what they did or tag somebody who wrote the foreword or any of that kind of stuff. The description, again, I'm going to keep this simple. Usually I do a little thing about journaling and why I love it and how, you know, it's helpful to people. And you know, you can do all of these different kinds of journaling, bullet journaling, stream of consciousness journaling, dump journaling, like you can, and so I usually write a lot of that kind of stuff in my description, again, because I'm adding up keywords that hopefully people can find my book in the search results. So we'll call that good enough. This is maybe where you would want to look into, like if you did have something that fell in this category, a public domain book. I don't know exactly what would fall into that category. Like if you know, took a message board and turned the comments from the message board into a book, maybe that's what that is. Not 100% sure. I always check that I hold the copyright because nothing that I used in the creation is copyrighted. It's all free to me. And by me publishing it, this design becomes mine. So that is that. And then these keywords are additional options. Again, sometimes I run out of ideas as far as like what all to put. And I hate to repeat and say the same thing as the title because now I've, you know, kind of wasted one of these keywords. You want to kind of dig and see if you can come up with anything that's different than what you already set up top. So and they can be whatever you want. So let's do that. And then choosing categories, I do believe these are required. And so like, you can visualize this when you go on to Amazon and look in Amazon books and you drill down, you're like, I want to see children's books, fantasy. And so like you're drilling down, these are those categories, like where do you want your book to be listed? And for journals, I always do nonfiction. A lot of times I'll head towards like this body, mind, spirit, because if you're journaling, chances are that's somewhat what you're in there for. And maybe I put this one in dreams and inspiration and personal growth. So if you were to go into Amazon books and go into nonfiction, go into body, mind, spirit, inspiration and personal growth section, my book will be one of the probably thousands that are there. So that is how categories work. If you want your book to be large print, looks like there's an option there where changes the font size, yada, yada, yada. And does this book contain adult content? I have made a couple journals where maybe I use a curse word on the cover because it's part of the saying. And so in that case, I would check that, yes, this has, you know, whatever content for 18 years older. A blank journal, I would say no. Okay, so that's kind of the Amazon listing, the details of the book, and now I'm ready to upload my content. So if you have your own barcode for the back of the book, you can select that there and it's going to have you put that in there. I have never done that, so I always say assign me a free whatever. And so that is now assigned to me. Publication date is if you want to like upload your book, get it approved, and then have a future launch date. Otherwise, if you don't change that, then as soon as it's approved, it becomes for sale on Amazon. So that's the only way I've ever done it. I've never chosen a future date, but that just means it's not going to show up for sale on Amazon until the date comes that you chose. So now we're down to the interior and paper type. So all of this is how are they going to print your interior and the cover for that matter. So is it a black and white interior and you want to use cream paper? Do you want to use white paper, or is it a premium color interior with white paper is the only option? If you choose color, it will print your interior in color. So if you've done some type of artwork in your interior, you can do that option. The thing is that does increase your printing cost, and so it'll increase the minimum price you're allowed to charge for the book. So that's the only thing there. If you do black and white with white paper, that's always what I recommend. If you choose cream paper, they don't let your book qualify for expanded distribution, which basically just means like bookstores buying big piles of your books, which is a great opportunity if a bookstore does want to carry your book. So I always leave it on the white paper. We're back to trim size. So it is automatically set to 6x9. I think that's like one of the most common settings, but here is where we were gonna double check and see if it would let us make a landscape book, which I think would be, let's see, that was, no, let's see. And then so that is not letting me make it like that. Oh, width. Oh, no. So that is telling me that it has to be portrait, basically. Like the width can only be that and the height has to be that. So I think square is going to be the closest thing that you can get to a landscape book if you're going through KDP. Okay, so 6x9 is the size that we used for our stuff. So now we have to pick no bleed or bleed. And this over here, I like those, how KDP has that in there. And honestly, this is how I learned. Setting your interior to bleed allows printing at or off the edge of a page. So what that means is, like on here, and I don't know if you can see the lines, but they go all the way off the side of the page. And in the binding, it goes all the way into the binding. If it didn't bleed, it would stop it and it would have a white space gap here and it would have a white space gap here. Again, just from personal preference, I like it when my lines go all the way across the page, and that is why I choose for it to bleed, because that's what I prefer. The matte and the glossy is about the finish on your cover. So I don't even know if I have a glossy, because I personally adore the way the matte covers feel. They're very soft and the glossy is just shiny. So it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, but the feel of it's very different. And I prefer the way the matte cover feels. So I almost always leave my books there. And now we are down to actually uploading the content itself. So this is where we put our manuscript. And I'm going to go back to my downloads. And this was my manuscript, the interior that I got out of Tangent Templates. And now we're going to wait for that to upload, which usually takes a second. Okay, so that's going to process, and then it's going to show us that we uploaded that. And then here, there is a cover creator for you to make a cover. I should try it out sometime just so I know what it's about, but I'm going to guess it's super basic. It's like pick a color, very little font options, but I'm sure like it's probably the simplest way to put a cover on your book. So if you hadn't already done a cover, you have the option to use the cover creator there. Or if you already made your cover like we did, then we're going to want to upload it here. And that's that one. And this part does take a minute. So usually while I'm uploading and then letting it process and things, so like that guy, it still says processing your file. You can't review all of this, which is the last step on this page, until all of those files got processed. So what it's doing by processing your file is taking that PDF and creating the combined like print ready. If somebody ordered your book, this is the file that's going to get sent to the printer. It's going to be a combination of your cover and the interior all in one. And that's how they print. So these two processing our file. So we're going to wait for those to do their thing, which does take a while. And then we're going to launch the previewer down here. Now might be a nice time to stop for questions since we're going to have a minute to wait. Usually I go and like design another cover while I'm very impatiently waiting.
So I'm not
Have we
seeing any
gotten any
questions.
questions?
I'm not seeing any
No?
in the
Okay.
chat, but if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to unmute themselves and ask.
I'll just make a comment. I used the Amazon cover creator, and it was really simple to use and very much like the template thing you used, where you can see the spine and move things around. It's
Yeah.
very similar.
Cool. Kind of an all-in-one where you're not like uploading the cover template on top of the Canva image. Like the cover creator, you're saying, just kind of has it all in there together. Yeah. So Evelyn asked, does anyone check to make sure your cover doesn't have a horrible error? So the part that we're getting into here in a second is just checking there, still processing. That's where we'll get to look at it. And I can tell you stories about how even I missed little things that they were errors either on the interior or on the cover, and I missed it and I approved it and they published it. And you can go back and like re-upload the content or re-upload the cover after you've fixed the error, but in that short time, like it's wrong and it's for sale on Amazon. So obviously that sucks. But you could, if you wanted to, like be extra sure, especially if you were the more content you were doing, I would say it's probably a good idea just to have somebody read through your PDFs, like have them look at the PDFs that you are planning to upload and see if they can see any errors before you ever upload it, and then, you know, fix it if they find anything. And then as a last step in this process, it's going to make us approve and basically let us, yep, there we go. Basically let us look at, here's what it's going to be, here's how it's going to print. And if you don't like it, you should change it now because this is what we're going to go with. So now I can launch my previewer. It should pop right up. So this is showing like fold lines and cut lines and all of that. Over here on the left, for me, because it didn't find any errors, it's telling you to please check these things. And it takes you through a few things that you're going to want to look at. And it's making some suggestions that this is, you know, just double check. I don't ever read this anymore because, yeah. But if you did have something wrong and it might have been cool to like upload something that was wrong just to show you what the errors look like, but it is going to list right here, these are the errors, and it like grays out the approve button. It's like, this is not going to work. Like, and mostly that's because the image isn't the right size. Like maybe you made your image exactly 6x9 instead of including the extra trim pieces. Maybe your interior doesn't fit with the cover image that you uploaded and the trim size you selected. There could be lots of reasons why it's flagging it, that like, hey, these PDFs, they don't merge the way we expected them to, and it's not going to let you move forward. It'll make you stop and fix it. And so that's really helpful. Otherwise, if they're saying like this is printable, it's on you to look and say, does this look like what I want it to look like? as you click into it, does this look like what I want it to look like? And that's the step that I didn't always do, because I'm like, it's a blank journal. What am I going to see on the inside? Why would I click in there and make sure it's okay? So I just looked at the cover and went on about my business. And then I ordered one of those journals, and I had accidentally uploaded the wrong interior. And so it was like stretching it, and like the right half of the page was blank. It was not my proudest moment. So always, even if it's a blank journal, click in there and look and make sure, okay, that's good. That looks good. And so if you needed to make changes, you could exit out of the print previewer, or you can click approve, which it will make you do. And that's kind of them saying, like, we printed what you told us to print. They're not liable for like, hey, there's a typo here, or that doesn't look good. They're like, we only let you print it if it's gonna work. And if it's gonna work, the rest of it's kind of up to you to be your own QA. So especially if you're someone that's not real good at the attention to detail part, I would say send somebody your PDFs. So now that I have my content and my cover is in there and approved, it can tell me what my printing cost is. So $5.65 is what they're going to charge to print this book. And it's saying show other marketplaces, because when you upload, by default, it goes to all of Amazon's marketplaces. You can also select that I only want it to be for sale on certain marketplaces. I don't know why you would ever do that. But if it was something that you felt like only belonged to for sale in the US or whatever, you could change that if you wanted. But it's showing you all of the different things there. And then I am ready to save and continue. And we are on the home stretch. So this is where you would say, like, do you want it, by default, it's all territories worldwide. If you did want it to be individual territories, that's where you can select if you only want to put it for sale in certain places. I always leave it on all territories, and then it's for you to decide how much do you want to charge for this book. You can also set the price in any of these marketplaces. That makes it the primary marketplace. And basically all that means is, like, when I say that this book costs $10.99 US, it's going to convert that $10.99 into all of these other currencies. If I said the book is $10.99 Canadian dollars, obviously that's a different amount of money, and it's going to convert it to all the other currencies. So I say use whichever one, you know exactly what you're talking about. And it's showing me underneath here that there are limits around what I can charge for this book. So the minimum that I can charge is $9.42. Remember, it was like $5.90 or something like that to print it. And maximum I can sell this book for is $250. If I could sell my journals for $250 a piece, that would be pretty magical. But for this size, I have done $14.44. And so then that's showing me, based on the price and the printing cost and the rate of royalty, that here's what I would get per book. And I always turn on expanded distribution, because again, that means that, like, if a bookstore wanted to buy 20 of these journals to sell at their bookstore, they would be getting a special price from Amazon, and I would get a smaller royalty, but I also sold 20 copies. So, you know, like that. So now I am ready to publish. And when I publish, it goes into the review queue for Amazon to look at. And they are looking at some different things that I have gotten rejected for in the past. For example, this is a good example of a journal that doesn't have anything on the cover. But you have to give your book a title when you upload it onto KDP. And I titled this book, Let Your Mind Wander. And when I uploaded it, I didn't have anything on the spine. I didn't put that there. And Amazon rejected it and said that the title on my book and the title on KDP have to match. So even if you only put it on the spine, like you don't put anything on the cover, you still have to have the title of your book somewhere on there. And then they are going to make sure that it matches. So that's the main thing I think that they look for. As far as what else they're looking for, I'm not really sure. Maybe they're maybe they're validating, like if you said that has content over 18, or if you said it didn't, and they're making sure it doesn't have any explicit content. There are people who do these reviews though. So I don't get an email here when I submit it into review, but I do get an email when they approve or deny it. And so I know when that review process has been completed. So when I look at my bookshelf now, I see that this book is there and it is in review, and it will be $14.44 when it's ready. And I think once it's reviewed and approved, that's when I can order my author copies if I want. And I do order author copies. Sometimes they take like 2 weeks to get to you and you have to pay shipping. So they still come out to be way cheaper than having to buy them for full retail on Amazon. So it can be worth the wait, but when I'm ready for a new journal, I'll buy my own book for full price off of Amazon, knowing that, you know, it's 2-day shipping. I'm going to have it soon. I get the royalty, so it's really not full price. And I think that's good enough for free shipping in 2 days. So that, again, I'm making mostly a lot of things that I like for myself. So that impacts the way I choose to do it for sure. So at that point, I am to the end of the upload process. Do you guys have any questions about that?
It looks like someone had a question. Do you usually include an about the author portion in either the front or back of the book or journal that you make?
So on my journals, I don't, but in the book that I showed you guys that I'm working on, that's like medium content, I would say, I do plan to have that. And I believe Kat also crafted something like that to go in her book. Kat, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I definitely in all of my books wrote about the author. I mean, they're longer, you know, like one book is 300 pages, you know, so, and I wanted people to know they could reach out to me, like who I am and what I do in addition to writing. So I filled that in.
Yeah.
I think with journals, I probably wouldn't, unless like if you're doing like a nonprofit or if you're doing some sort of outreach and you want people to know like who you are, if you're helping people and you want them to know resources or something, you could say, I am, you know, my name and I work with these organizations, or I work in, you know, I'm trying, this is my goal, you know, or like you could definitely do a personal statement about why this journal is important to you and what you hope to accomplish, and maybe even how people could reach you if that's what you want.
I will say on the journal, so like on the back of my focus journal, I wrote, this focus journal is filled with mindful prompts to help you find the life you love through thoughtful journaling and self-reflection. So not about me, but more, here's a little blurb on the back cover about kind of the very general intent of why you might want to use this journal. So I think that's definitely something that you can put on there, but the author of a journal is more, I would say, the designer of a journal, unless it is a low content, like you did put prompts in there, and then maybe you're venturing into author. So many fun vocab words. Anybody that knows me knows I love my vocab words. So anywho, but yeah, so there's all kinds of things that you can do to increase your marketing. Like I've thought about, the only reason I haven't done this is because I do tend to change sometimes, often. And if my website changed, I wouldn't want all of these journals to have like my website on the back cover, and then that website is no longer something that I'm keeping up, and now I got to go back and change it. But I have toyed with the idea of like, you know, visit my website here being on the back of all the journals that I do, because I've also, like this one is a painting that I did and then took a picture of the painting and then used the picture of the painting as the cover art for the journal. And that's how all the focus journals are. And I have lots of painting covers. And so I had also thought about putting on there that like the paintings behind these journal covers are for sale. I also do custom work. So just even kind of thinking like there's lots of ways you can market yourself, even from the cover of your book or your journal. So How important is it to have? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just getting ready to read the same question.
Well, and Kat can probably jump into this too, because I know we each do a variety of different things. I didn't have a website until here pretty recently, and I would put it in the same category of I put it off for a really long time because I thought it was hard, and turns out I was wrong. So I wish I would have done it sooner. I would say that, because it's easier than I thought. So there's that. And the next thing we're going to talk about is all about marketing. And a website is really just one place that you can do that. And having people organically find your website is maybe pretty difficult. I don't know, like maybe I shouldn't call it difficult, but I do think somewhere you're going to have to direct people's attention to the website. So I would say, if, like, let's say you're planning to do that through social media, like my preferred platform is Facebook. I personally started with the Facebook side of it and like getting people to follow along with my page. And then once I had a website, I was able to share with this audience that's already listening to me, hey, here's my website. And then my website is a really nice, like centralized place where they can see, here are the sessions I offer, here's the events I offer, here's my journals, here's my, all of these different things are all in one place. And I talk about it and I get people to go to my website through my Facebook page. So I'm using both of those to kind of drive traffic to each other, because there's also a place on my website where you can click to go find my Facebook page. So kind of like driving people between all of your different marketing tools that you choose to use. And that is going to be personal based on what works best for you.
So at the last session, a pin name was discussed. Can you describe where someone would make modifications to this process when using a pin name? And if using a pin name, do you need to create a separate account under that name to publish?
No, you don't need a separate account. Let me go back in there and I'm pretty sure it's just as simple as me saying that I want to be called Sally Jo. And now when they publish this, it's going to say that the author is Sally Jo. And the royalty is still going to come back to my KDP account. But as far as the customer is concerned, the author is Sally Jo. So I think it's that straightforward as far as a pen name. It's just picking something different that you want to be displayed. And then we also talked about the Amazon author page, where you could like link all of your books back to your author page. And I'll show you that here in a second. And maybe you just don't link that one. If you're, naming it by someone different, maybe you don't associate it back to the author page with your name on it. So I think it just depends on what the content is and what your reason is for wanting to use a pen name. Amy did discuss, she uses a few pen names, and she talked about the reasons why in the panel discussion. So that's part of the video from the last session. So yeah, I think we're ready to get into the marketing piece. And that's pretty straightforward, because I'm just going to give you a quick tour through, again, how I've chosen to market. And there are 8 trillion options out there. The first one I'm going to show you, though, is under the marketing tab of KDP itself. And then you scroll down to Author Central. You choose your marketplace, that's the US version, and manage author page. So this is my author page, and I can click edit profile. And when you're going there for the first time, it's like, I want to set up an author page. And so I wrote a little bio and I uploaded a picture, and that's basically it as far as like the content that I put on my page. Otherwise, I just linked my books there. I mostly just wanted that URL. But if you look over at the side, you can put stuff. Like if you took really pretty pictures of your journals, or some examples of content, whatever you wanted to do, you could add as much media to your author page as you want. You can also link, if you have a blog with a .com website, you can add that blog so that the blog posts are like cycling on your author page. So when people find your author page, they're also finding your blog. So that's an option. I don't have a blog, so I haven't set that up. And so this is just showing you that like it's going to look a little different. It's going to try to translate that, which is probably kind of funny when you're reading it in the native language. So that's an author page. And what that allows you to do is go on your website. So this is my website. I have an offerings tab at the top, and they can click on journals. That's really slow. Well, there we go. So in and amongst everything about my offerings that they can find on my website, there's just a little blurb about I make these journals, just very, very simple, and they can click shop journals, and that is taking them to my author page. So that's where they can scroll through and see all of the books that are not just all the books that are on my bookshelf, because I have to one at a time tag each book after it's published to my author page. So if you didn't want all of them to be on your author page, you can pick and choose which ones you tag and which ones you're not going to. So that's what that author page looks like. And then back on my my website, it's really very, very simple. So I run 2 meetup groups. I have links to those, testimonials, a page where they can read the testimonials and send me one if they want, a very, very brief about me, and a show support where if somebody wants to donate to me, or actually this is kind of a fun page, I'm kind of proud of it. So ways that you can support me, and I just kind of leave this here, and every once in a while get donations, and I think that's so cool. So there's ways that you can send me cash donation. There's also like you can book a session with me one-on-one. You can check out my Amazon journals and buy one of those. You can leave a review on Facebook, and you can write a testimonial for my website. So I put that on there, and that is honestly one of the main reasons I wanted a website, along with a place where all of my offerings could be together in one place. So that's the main reason I finally was like, I'm going to figure out this website no matter how hard it is, and turns out it was like stupid easy. So I think, yes. And last, I was just going to show you real quick. So this is my Facebook page that I made specifically for one of my journal series. I used the image of the first journal cover as my profile picture. I took a picture of like the whole first set of the series and used that as the cover image. And then I don't post on here very often, but I have posted a few things. I've also done a couple videos. I think that's what this was going to be. A couple videos where I'm talking about how to use my focus journal, because it is a prompt journal. And there's a method to the madness as far as why you might want to sit down with one of those. So I explained that in a video on the Facebook page for my focus journal. So those are the main ways that I market myself. Kat, I know you maintain some different things. Do you want to talk about your system and your setup, how you do that?
Sure. I'm kind of terrible at marketing because I know the things you're supposed to do, like have the website, collect email addresses, send out regular newsletters, etc. And I'm just not willing to commit to that. It just seems like too much work. I want to write, you know, so, but I did want to add that Kat had asked how important is it to have a website starting out, and I wanted to say a couple things about that. First of all, it's I don't think it's that important. Like when you're publishing, you don't have to have a website to be successful and sell your stuff. But secondly, creating a website is really super easy. Especially if you like just go on WordPress and get a free website. You don't even have to pay. Now I did get one business, well, not even business. I got the cheapest paid website you could get on WordPress because I didn't have money. And, but it does allow me to do a few things that my free sites don't allow me to do. So I think it was like $100 for the year or something like that. And so I would, if you have the money, I would recommend doing that. And then just like Carly said, you can set up different pages. You like on my website, I have my blog page. I have the different things I do, like energy healing, Reiki, psychic readings. Like I have a different page for each of those things. And then I also have a page for my books. So like I can market all of that stuff together, which definitely makes it easier because I'm fundamentally lazy and I like everything in one place. So, I mean, not really lazy. I'm lazy about spending time doing things I don't like. I want to spend all my time doing things that I love doing, which is writing and thinking and creating. And yeah. So, but in terms of marketing, I think too, most of my sales have come from like word of mouth, like people talking, which isn't a great way to I'm not making a living at it. So, I mean, I'm a terrible person actually to ask about marketing.
Or maybe the perfect person, because I guarantee you're not alone sitting in this room thinking like, that's not my thing. Like marketing is not my forte. You know, I want to write the content. I want to be the artist. I don't necessarily have a degree in marketing. Like that's got to be a thing.
Well, and to I mean, I've taken a lot of marketing classes and stuff. I just don't want to do it because like when I get emails from somebody all the time, I think that's obnoxious and I don't want to be that obnoxious person. Now, other
Right.
people will be like, no, this is a good tool. Use it, do it. And if that's your personality, wonderful. It's not my personality and I'm not willing to overcome my personality defects in that way. But what I do want to say is that, you know, I'm so happy to have my books published, and even if they don't sell, and I'm really happy to be in this creative thing. So there's a value in just being fearless about it's okay if it doesn't work out. You can still be happy doing it. And who knows, it might work out and I might get better at marketing and, you know, the pieces will fall into place. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
But don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Just do it. We hold ourselves back so often thinking, oh, I have to have this set up and I have to do this perfectly and I have to, you know, 3 million excuses. Just do it. Jump in. What's the worst that can happen? Then you learn something. Like you spent 6 months waiting and then you jumped in and it was like, oh, this is so easy.
So easy. So
we all
easy.
do that, you know.
Yeah.
So just better than what else are you going to do? Watch TV? You know, just jump in.
And that's the thing, the time passes either way, you know, and that's why I say I treat mine like a hobby. I do it for fun when I have time. I don't stress about it. I work with the ideas that come to me, and otherwise I'm not like holding myself on the hook. Like you have to publish 400 journals this year and make $4,000 and like setting all these goals that just, you know, like you can't control how all of that works out. It's more like having fun and doing what works for you. And if there's something that you're passionate about creating, then learn what you need to learn or find a buddy who can help you. Because that's how my website worked out was I have a free WordPress website. I did buy my URL so that it's a .com instead of ending in WP, whatever they put on there when it's a WordPress site. So I paid like $12 or something to get a URL and like another $8 a month or something to host it. So I do pay a tiny bit of money for my website, but otherwise, like I designed it all myself. I have changed it 40,000 times since I put it up there. Yeah, it's a work in progress. And I try to practice often, let's just make it good enough and let's get it out there. And once it's out there, I can always, I call it change its clothes. Like I've changed the design and the theme and the colors on my website like 4 times already. And I'm okay with it because like hardly anybody's looking at it anyway. Like it's supposed to be functional. There's always time to tweak and reimagine and redo and learn and get better. And yeah, anytime you're going to do any kind of creative anything, I strongly encourage like the holding yourself back part because you think you can't. That's a story you tell yourself and it can last as long as you let it. And I let it last way longer than it should sometimes, but you know, try to remember that and next time jump in a little sooner. So yeah, that's all we can do. Live and learn.
Kat's comment, I'm afraid I'll never actually publish because I want to play around and check out all the fun options. Totally get it, but you could publish 100 times. Like you could publish now and then do another, just like Carly.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that you learn as you go. Like I was doing blank journals, like purely blank journals, almost no text on the cover, just a picture of my painting and a blank interior. It's as easy as it gets. And I did that for like 40 journals just to try to get myself comfortable with this whole process of designing things and doing the interiors. And then I started doing prompt journals. And that was like so easy at that point because of what I had already learned. So kind of ease your way into it and learn as you go. And you can figure out a lot on Google. There's also Facebook groups that you can join that are super helpful. There's one that I think is like, I think it's just called KDP and Tangent Templates or something like that. I'll have to see if I can find that real quick and link it for you guys. Because yeah, I mean, even just joining some of those conversations and seeing what other people are talking about and what are their questions about getting started. And then, you know, you learn something from the comments on that post usually. And you have a place to go to post your question in a place where maybe you can get an answer for free and somebody can help you. So it's definitely possible to learn this for free. That being said, I also, after the first session, somebody reached out and wanted to know if I would be willing to like get their book ready to publish and get it on KDP. I've never done that as a service, but I am willing to figure it out. So if that's something that like you really think you can't do it, there are people out there who will help you for a fee. But I do think like if you have any interest at all in like maybe you'd like to do it, I suggest just trying. And what's the worst that can happen? Like you realize that you don't actually know how to do it. Like, you know, well, that's at least better than just not even trying. And then you know for sure that you're not going to be able to do it. So yeah, it's a whole process. Could we have a webinar on creating a website, Facebook account, and other marketing processes? That's a question for Mindy, but I see that as being valuable for sure.
I actually have one I've done several times, and it is also on our website. So I can also send the link out to that as well.
Perfect. So Evelyn's question about she's done books on Shutterfly. Can I make PDF of each page and publish it to KDP without entering every single thing? I would have to look at what you're able to get out of Shutterfly. Like maybe you could download the interior as a whole out of Shutterfly. That would be what I would try to figure out first. And if you can't, you can convert those pages into images, put it through a thing like Canva, and eventually download a PDF would probably be the easiest way to do that. But if it would let you download the Shutterfly interior as a PDF, that would be super awesome. I'm guessing that's probably a stretch. But I think you could definitely do that where you have content in two different places. It is fun, Betty and others. What else? My last name is Wharton, and I live about 20 miles south of Horton in Holton. So yeah, all of those great things. I love random questions too. Of how to do a planner, I most certainly do. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get back in Tangent Templates. So prompts and planners is its own thing, and prompts and planners. And then you get to pick, like, do you want a daily planner, a monthly planner, a weekly planner? So like this would be a weekly style where it's got all 7 days on the same page. This would be a daily style where it's got, you know, place for a whole day. Even this one has a schedule and a priorities list and a to-do and notes, where this one only has the schedule and notes. This page is really helpful to download even if you want, surely it lets you pick the year. Yeah, it does. So you would just pick the year, and then even if you only download this page and then like use Canva to make your own custom interior, but you want this like yearly page at the front, and then you're going to use the rest are daily pages. So you can kind of do it a variety of ways. And let's go back and do like, let's do this one. So let's say I'm going to leave it 8.5 by 11. Date range, you could do like a 2-year version or a 6-month version, or Valerie, who was on here last time, she has a planner that's good for like 30 days, I want to say, and it's a daily, and it's got a couple pages per day. So I think it's only like 60 pages long. And she has it where, I wonder if you can, yes, okay. So the headers, you could change these to be whatever you want. And then that's going to show up over here. And so you could customize those to be along with if you wanted to make a theme. The other thing that you can do is down here in the options, show week numbers, show day numbers, date range, and month. So like, let's say I turned the day numbers off. Now it's showing that this is week 1, but it doesn't have a date for any of those. So the idea, I think, is that you could turn like all of those off. And then it's just blank. And at that point, you know, if you're the kind of person that likes to use a planner for a few weeks and then you give up on it and then you like a planner again. And so like this kind of a planner, if you stripped all of the dates out of it, they could just turn the page and, you know, it's 6 months later, they just write the date at the top of the page and they can keep using that planner, versus if you leave the dates on there, obviously it's going to become obsolete. That's the other thing, is if you're going to make a 2021 planner, then, you know, it'll age out to where nobody's going to buy that book anymore. If you make something that's blank, that's an evergreen design and you're never going to have to delete that. It could continue selling for the rest of time. It's not specific to a time range. And then you can change the font and all of that, include the bleed. We talked about what bleed means. And then based on, you know, I chose a weekly design and the date range is this, it's showing me that that's going to be 53 pages, and I can click through those pages. Granted, they all look the same now that I turned off all of the date ranges, but out of all of that, I think then you're ready to save and download, and it's going to give you your interior. So now you could take this and upload it with a cover, and you have a open-ended weekly planner for 52 weeks. And that interior would be ready to go as is, and you could just slap a cover on it or a bunch of different covers on it. Or you can take this page into Canva and you could add your own, like if you wanted to take this interior and like put a quote at the top of the page. I think quotes get tricky because you do wind up in copyright territory. If you write your own content though, you can more easily, I would say, like, you know, put a little thing about the vibe that you want to send on each page. But that's all an option. Otherwise, you can just kind of leave that generic and your interior is done. Just because it's that easy, I'm going to also show you guys the prompt as well. So again, you can pick what kind of paper do you want. So let's say journal paper. And I like this font better, so I'm going to change that. I want my prompt to be bigger, so I'm going to make that a little bigger. I like the prompt to be centered, so there's that. And then this down here is where you're going to enter your prompt data. And these page dividers just mean, how do we know when we're at the end of a prompt and we need to move on to the next page? And so when I do that, I've entered a prompt and given it a page divider, because we're going to use this, I think that's called a semicolon, or a colon. I'm not even sure which one. Kat could probably tell me. So that is my first prompt. and it doesn't add the page divider. It knows to strip that off, and it's only one page of an interior because I've only entered one prompt. So if I wanted to do a second prompt, I could do that, and now those are back to back. So if I opened my book to the front page, this prompt would show on the front page, and then when I turn to the second page, it would be on this page on the exact opposite side. A lot of times I like to leave 2 pages per prompt, and I don't want, like, I want more like this book belongs to, and then I put that. So now the front page, when I open the book, says this book belongs to, and the first prompt is on the second page. The other thing I like to do, like I said, is leave 2 pages per prompt. So I'll just add an extra page divider onto both of those. And that means that here's my prompt of my ideas are, the next page is blank because that's still space now, to a 2-sided, like both pages when you open the book. That's still space for the first prompt. And then I turn the page and there's the second prompt and it's blank page. So now I have 5 pages. And let's say I only wanted those 2 prompts and they just repeat over and over and over again, which is fine. You can just copy and paste those, and now as many pages as you want that book to be. And we now have 129 pages, and all it's going to do is repeat those 2 prompts, ideas and goals, ideas and goals, ideas and goals, ideas and goals. I might keep a hold of that one. It's pretty good. So yeah, I mean, that's how easy it is to make a prompt journal. And then again, you're going to download that. When you do the download, it gives you your cover template. Super duper easy to make a prompt journal or a planner. I don't, so Marianne's question is, could you add those thought and journal pages between each page of a weekly calendar page? So since we have just a few more minutes, I'm going to show you how I would do that. I would take, so this is my weekly calendar, I believe. Yes. Okay. And I'm going to make that just big enough so I can see it on the page. And then I'm going to use my snipping tool.
Oh, Carly, we're not sharing.
Oh, gosh, dang it. I keep forgetting.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Nope, you're perfect. Doesn't do much good to do a display without the video. Okay. So I opened my document that I downloaded that had my weekly calendar pages. And those are this one. And so I shrunk the image so that I could see it all in one window. And then I use my snipping tool to get a new snip. There's probably better ways to do this, but this is the easiest way that I have found. Ooh, can't have that. The little guy, he was in the way. Get out of the way. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn off that black box. Yes, and copy that image. And then I'm going to go back to Canva and delete these. Let's say I'm now making my own interior for a planner / journal. So on one side, maybe I want, I have to save this. Or no, I don't, because I copied it. Let's see if it'll let me paste it. It sure did. So I'm going to put that like that, and I'm going to stretch it. So that is going to be when I open the book, that's now on the left side of the open book. And on this side, I'm going to go back to this college ruled lined paper that I made for our interior that we used earlier. And I'm going to make a snip. Copy. So now I have an interior that when you open the book, this is on one side and this is on the other side. And to make that into a journal is super easy to say, I just want to duplicate that page. And now I have 2 pages in my interior. And you could just go to town on duplicating that page and make it as long or as short as you want. And then back up here at the front, I would say you're going to do, oh, no, that's not this one. I'm going to make this my first page. And over here, I'm going to give it something like, this book belongs to and that's basically it. Like, you could make your own interior, and now you would download this as a PDF, and this would be in place of getting an interior out of Tangent templates. So it could be this simple to make your interior, those templates. I mean, you don't have to use their whole download of the entire interior to take little pieces of what they did. And then, like, let's say that I wanted to even, you know, add a heading into here to where I'm going to make it say, and I'm going to put that a little smaller, make sure it fits. And then, like, when I duplicate it, that's on there too. So you could customize that as much as you wanted. So you're definitely able to take those Tangent template designs, like this being a design, this blank lines being a design, and then mix and match it and make whatever kind of an interior you want for your book. So that's possible. Yeah. Any other questions? That's the end of my content or the technical walkthrough. This was fun. I really like doing it. After the last one, I was way inspired to upload some new journals, so I did. So I'm sure today will be very similar. You guys are so welcome. This is great.
Well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, unless somebody has something they want to ask and they can unmute themselves. But otherwise, I think we're pretty much good to go.
Yay! Yeah. So you'll have this as a recording. If you want, I am going to share just so it's captured at the tail end of the recording. Our contact information. So we shared this last time during the video. So if you do want to get a hold of Amy or Valerie, who appear in the panel video, you can get in touch with them there. For me, my website is myintentionalgifts.com. Kat's email is listed there, and you are more than welcome to reach out to any of us. We all offer services in the way of working with people on their creative projects. So don't hesitate to take us up on that if that's something that you're interested in. And we appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having us, guys.